Hi, my name is Suleiman. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to create a simple web server using Node.js. We are not going to be using any framework like Express or something. The whole idea of this project is to use Banana Node.js to build a simple web server. Okay, so let's get started. First and first, if you don't have Node.js installed in your machine, you want to go to nodejs.org and download and install Node.js. You can download any of this version. Okay, so I've already done that. So the next step is that we want to check. I want to check and see the version of my node. So to do that, I'll do node-v after you finish installing. So if you are getting this, so that means you have node installed on your machine. All right. So now the next thing that we want to do is to create our project. And to create our project, we do npm init-y. And what this command is going to do is that it's going to create a package.json file for us, like as you can see, which contains the name of our project, the version, and the description of our project. You can change any of this if you want. So now the next step, we want to create our main file, which is going to be index.js file. So now we want to start creating our project using using three core modules. The first module that we want to be using is the HTTP module. HTTP, we want to require HTTP like this, and then the second HTTP. The second module that we want to be using is going to be the path module, and then the last module is the FS module. All right. So to create our server, we are going to use the HTTP module for us to create our server. All right. So let me do create server like this. We do const server is equal to HTTP that create server like this, and then it's going to have, we are going to pass in a function which is going to take our request and response, okay, like this. And then the next thing that we want to do is to set the port of our server. Set server port like this, and then the port is going to be let const port. I'm going to use 4000. You can use any number of your choice, but I like to use 4000. All right. So the next step here, we want to listen to our port. So server.listen, we want to listen to this port, and then it's going to have a callback function, and here we are using the arrow function. And then what we want to be doing here is to just log something like server running on port, and then we concatenate the port like this. So that's it. So now we've created our server. The next thing that we want to do is to is to run our server. All right. So now to run our server, let me create this. To run our server, we do node space index.js like this. So as you can see, we have this guy server running on port 4000. All right. So if we go back to our browser, if we go to our browser and come here and do 4000, we are not getting anything. Okay, let's print something on our browser. Let's just try and print something on our browser. All right. So to print something, we do rest.end. Let's use h1 like this. h1. Let's just print hello world. hello world. All right, so let's save it. Let's save it, and then let's restart our server. To restart our server, we first of all have to stop it with Ctrl C, and then we run it again, node.index.js. All right, so let's go back to our browser and refresh. So now here we're having hello world. All right, so now the next step that I want to show is that I want to print the current URL so that we know if we are on home page, on our about page. Let me just show you what I mean. So here we want to print our current URL. So print URL like this. So let's restart our server, Ctrl C, and then we run it, and then we go back to our browser, and then we refresh. So you see, we are printing out our current URL, which is slash. So if you go to slash about, for example, we get slash about. If you go to slash contact, we get slash contact. So the next thing that we want to do is that we want to check and see if the URL is equal to slash. We want to print out home page. Just home page like this. All right, and else if it's equal to slash about, we want to print out about page like this. All right, so now let's come back here and restart our server. Control C like this, and then let's go back to our browser, and then let's go to like this. So now here we are getting home page. So when we go to slash about, we are getting about page. So now what I want to do is to read and load HTML file on our browser, not just to print something. All right, and to do that we are going to use the fs module. We are going to use the fs module and read the file like this, and then we want to also use the path module dot join double underscore Danny slash the location of the file, like the folder or the directory of the file that we want to load the HTML file from. So in our own case, it's going to be in public, and then the name of the file is index.html. All right, and then we are going to, and then finally it's going to have a callback function which is going to take an error and then the data. All right, so now we want to check if there's error. We want to check if error. We want to throw the error like this. Else we want to load the file, and to load the file we want to first of all set the status code to 200, and then change the content type to text/HTML like this, and then we do rest.end data. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is we are going to create this folder, which is going to be public, and then inside the public we want to create this file, our index.html, like so, and then let's generate our HTML file, HTML like this. We're going to have head, and then body, and then here we just want to use the h1 tag, and let's print something like welcome to home page like this. All right, so let's create another file. Here we call it about.html like this, and let's just copy this guy and paste here, and then let's name it welcome to about page. All right, so if we come here, let's copy this guy and replace it with this, and then if it is about, we want to load our about page. All right, so that's it. So let's restart our server and see the result. All right, to restart our server, we do Ctrl+C, and then we run it again, and then let's give it a try. So here, yeah, you see we are having welcome to home page. If we go to /about, we are having welcome to about page. So there's something here that I noticed, that we are repeating this bunch of code. This code and this code is the same thing. So for example, let's say our website, we have plenty pages on our website. If we have plenty pages on our website, so that means we have to be doing all of this bunch of code all the time. So for example, let's say our next page that we want to load is going to be contact page. For example, let's say we want to load contact, for example. So like this. So you see, we are repeating ourselves with this bunch of code, and I don't want that. So to make our code to be more efficient, what I want to do here is to create a function. I'll call the function render page content like this, and then we are going to pass in the page that we want to render like this, and then we copy this and paste inside, and then this is the page that we want to render. All right, and then instead of having this code, we just want to call this function and then pass the page that we want to render. So in this case, we want to pass about.html, and then here too we want to pass in index.html. All right, so let's start our server. Let me clear this. I'll run it again. So if we go back to our browser and give it a try, we are still getting the same thing, welcome to home page. If we go to about page /about, we are getting welcome to about page. All right, so this is the simplest web server that you will ever see in this world. But then what I noticed is that what if, for example, now we want to load a file that has different content types. So now, for example, let's say we want to load a CSS file or a JavaScript file. This code is not gonna work with what we have right now. It's not gonna work. So for example, let's come here and create a folder. Let's call it CSS, and then inside here we want to create a file, call it style.css. all right, and then let's just do something like body, background color, let's use blue, and then the color, let's just use this one for example, and then the next thing here that we want to do is to call our style sheet inside our head. Okay, so let's say link real is going to be style sheet like this, and then hive is gonna be that CSS that's like this. Alright, so now let's copy it and put it on our about page also. Alright, so yeah, so let's give it a try. Let's start our server, and then when we come back here and let's refresh, you see it's loading, it's loading, it's loading. It's not gonna work. It's not going to change the content type. Like, it's not going to load the CSS because the content type is different. All right, so now to do that, we want to we want to optimize or let me say refactor our code in such a way that we are going to be checking the files that we are loading. So now if the file is CSS, we change the content type in a dynamic way to like text.css. All right, so to do that, let's just comment on this. We don't need all of this. All right, to do that, the first step is that we want to set dynamic path, and then let's see, let's find path. It's gonna be path dot join, the one that's called that name, then public, and then public, and then here I want to use a ternary operator to check if the request.url is equal to homepage is equal to /. So we want to return index.html. Else we want to return the request.url. Okay, like this. So now the next thing that we want to do is we want to get the file extension like this, and to do that we do let file extension is equal to path.xname, then we pass in the file path like this. So now here we are passing this file path, and then we are getting the extension of this file. Okay, so now the next step that we want to do is we want to set default content type. Okay, so now to set our default content type, is going to be let default content type going to be text/html like this. So now we want to check the file extension and see. So now if the file extension is .css, we want to change our default content type to be text.css. If our file is .js, we want to change our file to text.javascript and like that. All right, so let me show you what I mean. So if we want to use switch statement, so we are switching the file extension. So now we say case case.css. We want to change the default content type. Let me copy it from here to here to text.css like this, and then we break. Yeah, and then let's do for example, let's say we have javascript.js, so we have text.javascript, and then the next one that we want to check is let's say .jpg. So we want to have image.jpg like this, and then finally let's say it's png. So we want to have image.png. all right, so that's it. So the next thing here that we want to do is to read our file. All right, so we want to read and load the file to our browser, and to do that we are using our fs module, fs.read file, and then we want to pass in the file path, and then we're gonna have a callback function like this, which is going to take an error message and then the data that we want to load. All right, so now we want to check if there's error. So if there's error, by default we want to check if the error is 404 error, like for example page not found, or 500 for example. And to do that we do if error.code is equal to int like this. So now here we are check for 404 error. So to check for 404 error, this is the syntax. You do error.code. If the error.code is equal to int, then we want to print out on our browser res.end. Let's use h1 like this. Let us see page not found. All right, else if the error is not 404 error, what we want to do is just to set the rest dot right here. We want to set the status code to 500. all right, like this, and then at the end we want to print out the file. We want to print out the file UTF-8, yeah, so something like this. And then at the end of this if statement, so that means if there's no error at all, that means it's success. So if success, we want to let me just come here and copy this. We want to load our data. Alright, so I'm gonna copy this, and then the content type is the default content type, like so. Alright, so we are good to go. So let's refresh our server, let's stop it and then run it again. Alright, so let's go back to our browser and refresh. So blah, you see, so now our program has loaded the CSS file that we created, you know. So let's go back to our browser and go to about page. For example, let's go to about, enter. We're getting, this is strange, we're getting page not found. Oh, I think we have to do about.html. Yeah, so now we are getting welcome to about page. Okay, but here what I want to do next is that, as you can see, if we go to about, we are getting page not found, and if we go to index, for example, we are still getting page not found. But if we do index.html, it's returning our home page, and if we do about.html, we are getting about page. So what I want us to do is to check and see if the URL is just about, we still want to load the about page and without the extension. Okay, so to do that, we come here and do, let's say we want to check if content type is text slash HTML and an extension is null, for example. So what we want to do here, we do if content type is equal to text slash HTML, like this, and file extension is equal to empty, then we want to concatenate our file path with .html. Alright, very simple. So here what we are doing is that we are checking to see if the content type is text.html, so that means it's a HTML file, and then the extension is null. If it is like that, then we are giving the file path .html before we load it. Alright, so let's come back here and refresh our server. So let's go back to our browser and do index, we're getting it. Let's go to about. Yeah, you see, so we're getting about page. If you do slash HTML, it's gonna work. If you remove the extension, it's still going to work. The same thing with index, it's working fine. Alright, so that's it, guys. If you like this video, please like, and if you have any question, please leave it below. Thank you very much for your time.